even in that luxury space, they see that you are doing something different and they want to know what it is. Got that next door listing, sold it in 2 weeks, have a client for life.
Wow. Yeah. And
So
that happened.
and that happened. Yes.
Really? Welcome to the newest episode of Brooks on the Money. Today, I've got a very special guest, a very longtime business partner of mine, someone I've worked with for over a decade, almost 15 years, I think now. Hannah and I have been business partners together. We've done hundreds of transactions together. We've helped many families, many clients together. And she's a perennial powerhouse in Collin County. She's the top agent in Collin County, has an incredible team with the Luxe Global Group, and is going to share some great tidbits about the real estate market and her journey throughout it as well. So welcome, Hannah. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been quite a year in this real estate business, or really the last 2 years, and timely today, right after the Fed meeting where the Fed reduced interest rates today. So it's got a little bit of a spark, a little bit of interest in the market. So how are things going for you this year? And tell us
It's
about
definitely
things.
been a journey over the last couple of years, just navigating all the different changes and NAR and interest rates and an election year. So I think all of those things have definitely been pivotal, and especially with buyers and what their mindset is on purchasing and some of the fears and how to conquer those fears, and
Yeah,
just talking through them. And communication is key. So
yeah,
navigating each of those topics is, I get calls every single day asking me those exact questions. I'm sure you do too.
yeah, yeah. Half the time is not necessarily being a real estate agent. It's almost like being a counselor in
A
some ways,
therapist, yes, marriage
therapist.
therapist. Yep.
Yeah, therapist, a financial planner, a
Yeah.
fortune teller.
Fortune teller, yes. I
Yeah,
keep saying my crystal ball is broken right now in real estate because it's just been so volatile.
yeah,
But I mean, the market's still been amazing. No matter which part of the industry that you're in, it's just lining yourself up with what's really going on in the market. And luxury was awesome a couple years ago, and it's been a little bit slower this year. But we're definitely seeing some things pick up over the last couple of months, which is exciting.
yeah, yeah. So you made a big push, and not necessarily that you changed your business, but your business changes over time, right? As you progress in the business and your clientele moves up, like your business changes, and you've made a big push towards the luxury market in the last several years. How has that been going?
Yeah. I started in luxury probably about 15 years ago. I can't believe I've been an agent now for 20 years this year. But started out doing foreclosures and, back 2008 and 9 when the whole market imploded, and learned everything there was about short sales and learned everything there was about foreclosures, and, clients with tears streaming down their eyes, and trying to help them through navigating that process. And then the last several years, with the market being so crazy, got into the luxury market and learned everything there was about that. I think as real estate agents, it's important that you do kind of shift with what's happening in the market, and you have to if you
Yeah,
want to stay relevant.
for sure.
So,
Yeah,
but getting into the luxury market, it's exciting. There's a lot of challenges with it. I'm a very type A person. I love competition.
yeah,
I love the
for sure.
challenge
Yeah,
of the luxury market because it is so different. It's harder to get into. And I get a lot of questions like, how did you get into the luxury market, and how do you break into it? Because it really is something that you have to break into. It's not something that you can just like tomorrow decide I'm going to be a luxury agent.
So how did you break into it?
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of research. I think as an agent, if you want to get into that market space, you really have to analyze the type of clientele that you're going to be working with. And you have to be the kind of agent that can handle their demands. And,
Yeah,
is the luxury market, that clientele, have a higher demand, a higher expectation than the average human? Yeah, they sure do.
yeah,
I mean,
for
you
sure.
you can't sugarcoat that. Like they got to where they got because they're savvy, because they know the market, because they understand money and how it works.
Yeah,
And they're smart people. And not that everybody isn't smart humans, they just have a different expectation and a different view, different worldview, really, of how they look at their finances. And that's why they got there in the first place.
true. Yeah. Well, and they've bought and sold homes before. It's not their first time,
Right.
right? So they're they're experienced with it. And then in a first-time homebuyer situation, you're the educator. And in
Right.
this, you're more of a consultant, right?
Yeah. And I will say, I even have luxury clients that are first-time homebuyers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily just because they're a first-time homebuyer. I mean, I've seen the gamut of it, but there's a trust factor, I think, that's there, that you have to earn, for sure,
Yeah.
in that luxury market. I think there's just they've been through it. They've gotten to where they've got because they've been through things in this life.
Yeah.
And because of that, they have high expectations and they know what they want. And you have to be prepared, and you have to really sell yourself, but also have something to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's a brand, right?
It's a complete.
You have to brand yourself. In any business, you have to brand yourself, but
Yeah.
it's a different brand than.
Well, and I think, breaking into that level of trust and having, you have to have the right marketing. You have to have the right website. You have to have answers to questions that they don't even know to ask, that you're giving to them the very first time that you're meeting them in your listing presentation. So
Right.
I spent a lot of time analyzing my listing presentation, my website. When I first wanted to break into that market, I had a fantastic agent who sat me down and walked me through his processes and his procedures. And I saw my weaknesses. And you have to be willing as an agent to look at your weaknesses, assess them, truly get down to the nitty gritty of what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
In any area of real estate, really. And then work hard to correct those things that are glaringly obvious that you need to change.
Yeah, for sure. So what are that's a good question. Is the last 2 years has been so different? What are the things that you've changed just in the last 2 years in your business?
We revamped our website. So when I first got into the luxury market, that was the first thing I did. I was like, okay, you need to, you look at the greats. And it's surprising to me. I get agents that call me every day and asking me these questions. And I'm like, it's really not rocket science, people. Like, it's not. If you go to try to recreate the wheel, it's going to take you a long time to get there.
Right.
But there are so many amazing real estate agents that are luxury agents in the DFW Metroplex. So I went out and I sought out the greats. I looked at their websites. I called a couple of them. I asked them to lunch. I was told no very much often.
They didn't want to share their secrets.
They didn't want
to
share their secrets.
Yeah.
But you keep asking.
Right.
I think agents, young agents and newer agents, they give up. Instead of giving up, you don't take the word no. You stay after all those real estate agents. And so I did. And let me tell you, there's nothing more fun as an agent to get a $2.5 million listing and sell it in 2 weeks next door to a high-end luxury agent who's been an agent for 25, 30 years, whose house has been sitting there for 3 years. And I sell the house next door in 2 weeks. Guess what happens?
Yeah. You
that
get
next
the other
door,
listing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the other, they called me and they're like, I've had my house listed for 3 years with XYZ real estate agent. You sold the house next door in 2 weeks. I'd like to know how you did that. And that has happened more times than I can count.
Wow.
Even in that luxury space, they see that you are doing something different and they want to know what it is. Got that next door listing, sold it in 2 weeks, have a client for life.
Wow. Yeah. And
So-
that happened.
And that happened. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's incredible.
And the most fun part about it is I had reached out to that specific agent, which I will not name, and asked her if she would go to lunch or coffee, or if I could just have 30 seconds on the phone with her because I was trying to break into the luxury market. And would she please give me a moment of her time?
Yeah.
So let me tell you, selling that house, getting that next listing, that was awesome.
And so did she call you back and ask you for a moment of your time to figure out how you did it?
But she did tell me no. And all that no did was motivate me to go try harder so that when I did get into that space and I did get better at listings now, I remember that feeling though. And if an agent calls me and asks me, I take the time and I give back because it is so important. I don't care what level of real estate agent you are.
Absolutely.
If an agent calls you, give them the time of day. Give them that 30 seconds. It's not hard.
I think it's, I love that you say that because I'm a huge believer in coaching and training, and I do it, every day for my loan officers and for a coaching group nationally. And you got to pay it forward. Like,
Yes.
why are we in this world, in this business? Like, if you're just going to keep it all for yourself, like there's so much business in the world. There's so many things that you can learn from other people. And you never know. She could have learned something from you that day that she could have used in her business to sell her house in 2 weeks. I mean, I was on a coaching call yesterday with 5 of my students, and I might have left it with more notes than they did.
Yeah.
Just the things that they're doing that I can implement in my business. Like
Yep.
there's always something to learn,
You
and
can learn.
to shut somebody out over that, I think is just it's very short-sighted,
She was too busy. She had too much going on her plate.
Yeah.
So, and I remembered that ever since, though. And it honestly, her no transformed how I did business. And I learned so much from that no, because also her no inspired me to go track down every single thing I could find about her.
Yeah.
And I made every single thing about me better. So it spurred the competition in me. It was motivation to be like, okay, you're going to tell me no. Okay, well, guess what? I'm going to go make this even better.
Yeah.
And I feel like I did, honestly. If you look at, nobody else is going to know that
there.
name, but
Yeah,
the evidence was there.
We'll leave it in the chat for you later. Yeah.
So, I mean, speaking to agents, just take the no. Don't get dismayed from it. Don't get disheartened from it. Take it and help it to inspire you to be better.
That's a great tip. You get one no and you just turn yourself away and you're like, oh, it's not going to work, or keep going.
Yeah.
Like let it motivate you and call the next one, because maybe she was having a bad day and she told you no, but maybe not. It doesn't matter. That doesn't affect you. There's, like you said, there's hundreds of agents like that many of them were willing and able to share with you.
Well, the fact you said a key point, keep going. Don't take the no, because I didn't. And I kept on calling. I got told no more than I got told yes by these agents.
You're a successful realtor, and that's, in order to become a successful realtor, you have to live by that mantra. You have to take the no's and just brush them off and keep going. You have to have that grit and determination, because it's not an easy business.
Well, then you get the yes. And I got the yes. And he brought me to his office, opened his books, showed me his processes and procedures, showed me his listing presentation, showed me everything, and just gave me the keys to his kingdom because he saw something in me. And he was an older agent. I send him a Christmas gift every year still, because I owe him everything. I mean, because he said yes, and he took 2 hours with me and analyzed all my processes and procedures, showed me where I was lacking, and I took every single word he said and changed and totally transformed my business.
That's
and
incredible.
I'm here today because of him.
Wow.
So I like to pay it forward to other agents.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, being on this show, I might get 5,000 calls. I will try to get back to him.
Well, hopefully we have 5,000 people watch it, but maybe you might get one or two, but you never know. Yeah.
But I think there should be more information out there for agents to know how to break into the luxury market, and I'm happy to help facilitate that if I can.
Oh, that's wonderful of you. And even so, we have a lot of brand new agents that watch this too as well. I mean, take us back to 2000, what was it, 2005 when you got in this business?
2004, yeah.
So being a brand new agent, what are some tips for some brand new agents that, that can help them be successful just in general?
Don't say no.
Yeah. Same thing, right?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing. When I first got in, I mean, I had 4 kids. I had a mountain of medical debt. I get asked that question all the time, like, why did you become a real estate agent? I got into it to pay off medical bills. I had a sick kid, had a lot of surgeries, and we were in debt up to our eyeballs. And I always thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, homeschool, mom that, little grainy mom with my little plants and my kids. And God had other plans.
Yeah.
I got into it to pay off medical bills, thought I could just do it part-time. And my first year in real estate, I was Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
So, and the reason I was Rookie of the Year is I didn't say no. I mean, everybody in the office would be like, hey, you want this lease? Absolutely. Hey, you want this short sale? Don't know anything about it, but absolutely. So I worked and worked and worked and quickly became a full-time position, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So don't say no. Say yes. Do the work.
Do the work.
Do the work.
Show up, do the work.
Yep.
Follow other people that have done it before. Take the shortcut, That's what coaching is. That's what mentorship is that it takes you so far ahead, so much faster. If you try to figure it out on your own, are you going to get there? Yeah, eventually. Or can you get there so much faster by having and paying sometimes for that mentorship too?
Well, and I think real estate has changed so much in 20 years. When I got into real estate, nobody was showing you anything. Like my office, I remember I showed up the first day and I didn't have a pen. Got so nervous. And I show up, I didn't have a pen, and I just asked the front desk lady, hey, can I borrow a pen? And she's like, did you not bring your own? And I'm like, no, I'm a little stay-at-home mom with my 4 babies. No, I'm so sorry. Can I please borrow one? And she's like, well, if you're going to make it in real estate, you better bring yourself a pen. Like, nobody took the time to show me how to work an MLS system. Nobody. I had one guy, Sal Santinello, shout out to you. And he took the time to, I'm in the office with tears streaming down my face trying to figure out this technology that I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And he took the time to help share and to show me how to work it, where all these other agents were just walking right on by telling me no every single day.
Yeah.
So I learned from that too, as to, now in real estate, it is more open. People are more willing to share. It's not so cutthroat in that this is my proprietary information and I won't share it with you. I even went through that where I was like, hide it all. Don't share anything with anybody, because that's what everybody was doing. And now I feel like everybody's a little more open to sharing and to helping each other out. And I think that has been a benefit to the industry changes that we've seen in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Obviously technology pushes that forward, and you can learn anything on YouTube these days, but I do believe that's changed in our business too. And just the training in general is different. When I first got in the mortgage business, there was no training. It was like, here's a computer and a phone, and go find some loans. And then now what do I do? So
I didn't even have a phone when I got into the business. I had GPS maps that I printed off every night and painstakingly highlighted. The maps pages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely changed for sure. So what do you think are the biggest changes in the last year that are going to impact the business? And
well, obviously, I think the NAR lawsuit. I think that there's a lot of scared agents out there, a lot of buyer's agents that are wondering, how big of a change is this going to be? And honestly, I think the biggest takeaway that any agent can take right now is yes, it has changed things, but truthfully, I feel like it has changed things in the better. I think it has made it more of a negotiation. And I think if buyer's agents take it as a negotiation and they're fighting for that for that commission, there's money to be had. Just because a seller's saying 2% is all they're going to pay, it's still a negotiation.
Sure.
And I think buyers need to look at it differently instead of being so scared and worried about the changes, and just get in there and go do the work.
Well, so, I think a lot of the apprehension around it, from what I've heard, is the conversation with your client, like how to explain that. So how does your team explain that to a client that is brand new? You never met them before. Say they're, not even a referral. They're just a lead you've gotten off the internet or something. How would you explain that to someone?
Well, and there's been a lot of fear, and there still is a lot of fear, I think, in listing agents and buyer's agents alike, of how do you approach that? What is it that you're supposed to say? I don't want to lose this deal over commission, and then you sell yourself short. Honestly, first of all, you need to research. Go get the truth, and don't get it off a real estate mastermind Facebook posts. You need to go to the source. So going to realtor.
Stay off of those in general. Like the sky's always falling in there, and then you need to stay out of that.
Go to the sources where they originated from. Do your research. Learn. I think that's a big thing that agents, instead of taking the time to do their due diligence and really understand what is happening and what this all means, so that you can then form your narrative, put it into your presentation in such a way that you're educating your client. It's just about education and communication. Those are the two things that agents need to practice in front of your mirror. Mm-hmm. Like practice with your husband, doing your listing presentation, practice going over this one issue.
Yeah.
I have not had, knock on some wood. I don't know where the wood is, but knock on wood, every single listing appointment that I have taken so far since this change, and really all summer I was implementing this, because it was originally supposed to be back in June, and they switched it to August. Yeah. So it gave us a couple months to really start preparing for this narrative. And we put it in the listing appointment. I have not had a single seller that has not taken a listing for 3%. So it can be done.
3% each side.
3% each side. 3% on my listing side. Saying 3% to the buyer's agent. If you educate them about what's going on in the market, there's some things we can't say. So you have to be very careful with the narrative that you're saying, clearly.
Sure.
So that the seller understands without violating the terms that you can't discuss.
Require it. It's
exactly.
It's part of the agreement, though.
But if you explain it in such a way, people are smart. And all of my sellers have seen the benefit of continuing to allow the buyers out there to bring buyers agents out there to bring their buyers to their home,
For sure.
and the benefits of offering them and paying them to do so.
Yeah.
And they haven't wanted to. The first thing they say is, well, that's stupid. Why would I want to do that? I mean, literally every single seller that I have spoken with, that's their first word is, of course I want them to be paid. I want them to bring their buyers to my house.
Exactly.
So it's not rocket science. It really is pretty simple and easy if you break it down into the terms they understand and you communicate that correctly.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at any industry, no matter what it is, there's a salesperson involved and there's always a commission as part of it. And it's always been, I don't know, for 40 years, it's been part of the transaction where it's been customary to have 6% and 3 and 3, but there's been for years people that list at 4% and 1 for his and 2 for the buyer's agent. However, they preset it, and really the ruling is you just can't preset it, right? It's just this is what it is, and I can't advertise it in that way, but you can negotiate for it, or you can already pre-plan to have paid that.
Right.
It's just you just can't coerce the seller into doing that, and you just can't advertise it through MLS, right? Like
exactly. And I've had several transactions where I have the buyer and the listing agent's like, my seller says they'll only do 2% or 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that information. I'm going to talk to my client. We talk to the client. The client says, you know what? I want you to get paid. Put 3% in there. This is a negotiation. All right, I will. I negotiated for myself. Guess what? Those 1% sellers, the 1% seller that is saying I'm only going to pay 1% to the buyer, they pay me 3%. They want that deal.
Yeah.
They get an offer on a house. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm sure. Let's pay it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been in there forever. And you could say, a matter of perspective is either the buyer has always paid this or the seller has always paid this. Exactly. It's just always been there. It's always been part of the transaction. And so now the people that are selling, like, say you took it out of there, there's only one generation of home sales that's going to benefit from that.
Right.
And then it's going to be is what it is at that point too. So like if you took it out and you only paid 3%, that's only going to benefit this next home sale on that house because it's always been in there.
Yep. Now I will say on the new build side, that's been a fun navigation for agents.
Okay.
Because there's, they see it on CNN, they see it everywhere. You don't have to have a buyer's agent. You can get their commission. So that has definitely been a source of, really talking them through.
But I've seen the opposite. I've seen builders paying 6-7% too.
Yes, but a lot of the buyers are like, okay, I know you're getting a bonus on this. I know you're getting an extra 3% on this. Like, I want it. And you're like,
and if you sign the agreement with them for 3%, then you're obligated.
That's it. Then you're obligated to. Exactly.
Right.
So you got to be careful and you got to navigate that correctly. And again, it all comes down to communication and setting that, and also them seeing your worth.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's
and truly, like, should you, 7% is not
right.
It's not fair, customary. Yeah. It's not any of that. Like it's a coercion by the builder to get you to drive this direction instead of that one into that neighborhood.
Right.
And you're trying to convince your client that they need to buy this neighborhood versus that one because of that commission.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like I think that is dicey, and how long that'll last for the builders.
I don't know. Yeah.
Their lobby is pretty big.
It was sure fun while it lasted, though.
Yeah.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
No, but I think buyers, they are more savvy. They've definitely starting to do their research. They are reading about all of the. So yeah, you got to be prepared when you meet with that buyer and they're looking at a new build.
Everybody's more educated.
Yes,
right?
And they haven't been up until now. All of a sudden, everybody's an expert. So
in your income,
and they are the expert, and they think that they know it all and they have it figured out, and so they deserve that commission on those new build properties. And I had one just recently, and they think I'm worth 1%. What do you do with that? Then it becomes a choice as an agent.
It's a choice of how much you value yourself, right?
It is. And
that's okay. But I guarantee you somewhere along that way, they're going to be like, man, I really wish Hannah was there to help me, or I could. And they're going to call you and ask you a question, even if you're not on there.
Yep.
You're like, I'm sorry, I don't represent you because.
Yeah. Or I do represent you, but here's what you get for that 1%.
Right.
And I think that's what agents need to do also is evaluate their time, look at their time for that 1%, come up with what is your value for that 1%. And then we're showing them, like, for 1%, this is what you get. For 2%, this is what you get. For 3%, this is what you're going to get on the new build properties. Because let me tell you, buying a new build property without a real estate agent, you are
Yeah,
taking a risk to yourself
for
with
sure.
trades being how they've been since 2020,
Yeah,
with the building quality down since 2020,
yeah.
with the problems with getting windows and, trim and paint and all of that, the quality that has gone down. Like, you got to fight for those things. And you got to have quality control, and having an agent that has been an agent for 20 years and knows the industry in and out and knows what quality control things to look for, that's invaluable. That's way worth the 3%.
All of those things are, plus the negotiation piece of it too. I
Yes.
mean, just taking the builder for what it is, telling you the price is 400,000 doesn't necessarily mean that it's that. I mean,
Yep.
maybe you could have negotiated more than that and they don't even know it, and they don't have that expertise or that knowledge to do that. And there's so many holes, and you can educate yourself a lot in the YouTube world of today, but it doesn't take the place of 20 years of experience either.
Yeah.
The market knowledge that you get, the tradesmen that the referrals after the fact, and how the transaction never stops.
Yep.
Like, it's the home's closed, but you're one of the best at this, like the relationship that you keep with your
Yeah.
clients. And I've never seen an agent that repeats with their clients like you do. It's an incredible thing, that the following that you have of your past clients. I mean, I've done loans for many of them 3, 4, 5 times in the 15 years I've known you, because they always come back to you. It's a very loyal following that they have, and it's because you provide such a great service to them. So,
Well, that's why our tagline is your real estate agent for life, because we mean it. Like, our clients become like, I've got 4 kids. They become like an extension of my family, and
yeah,
we want to provide that service for them. And then nothing's better than having their kids grow up, and now their kids are calling us to come help them,
yeah, right.
because they trust us, and they trust because they know I have their best interest at heart, and I always will. It's never about me. It's about them and protecting them to the death. And
Yeah,
I think they feel that, and they know that.
for sure. Their kids being helped by your kids even, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's done that too,
Generational.
generational, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, time flies, I can't believe that was 15 years ago, but so many different markets that we've been through over that period of time. And where do you see the market going here? We're in October, almost in September, sorry, of 24. We've seen probably the worst market since 2007. To me, it doesn't feel that is the worst market, because that's when I got in the mortgage business.
Yeah.
And so, like, getting into an industry like this during the worst time is really difficult, but transaction and volume wise, probably the lowest we've seen since then,
Right.
or for sure, not probably. Where do you see it now? Are we coming out of that? Do you think it's going to continue at that level, or?
Gosh, I hope we're coming out of that. I think, election years, they've been doing this for 20 years. I've been through a few election years. Every single election year has been the same.
Yeah,
There's a lot of fear that's involved in
I just don't
election years.
understand that. Yeah. So let's stop you right there real quick, though. Of all those election years you've been through, and all the clients that have said, well, I'm going to wait for the election,
Yeah.
and their person didn't become the president,
Yeah.
did they still buy on the other side?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are they waiting then? Like,
Because of the fear of the economy and what's going to happen in the economy. I do think this election in particular is a little more volatile, shall we say, than in years past,
yeah,
which has caused a lot. And the economy is a little more volatile right now than it has been in years past. I think
yeah,
the economy right now, over the last 20 years of being in real estate, since 2008, it's feeling a little similar, like it hasn't been black and white. It's very gray in a lot of areas.
yeah,
And I think that gray of the economy mixed with we don't know who's going to be and who's going to be voted in just does cause fear, and it causes unrest. And then pickle that with the interest rates being higher than they have been typically in the last 20 years since I've been a real estate agent. Also,
right.
so it's multifaceted, and I think because it's multifaceted, it's caused buyers to pause. And really, they're still looking, though. Let me tell you. I mean, showing. Every agent out there needs a pair of tennis shoes as a gift from their real estate agent, because they are showing so many properties. But buyers are hesitant to pull the trigger because they have this little dangling carrot of interest rates are going to be lowering at XYZ date or whatever.
Yeah,
And so they're waiting for that. And I think that's caused a lot of buyers to pause too.
yeah,
And that hasn't been there in not as much, I would say, in the last 20 years as it is now. So I think interest
for
rates
sure.
plays
Yeah,
a
I mean,
huge part in buyers pulling the trigger on actually moving forward on a house.
Yeah, I mean, the rates have been sub 5% since 2000, late
Yep.
2009, really. I think there was one moment in the teens somewhere where they popped above 5, but it was so, like, though
Yeah.
it stalled the market so much that it just
Drop back down.
it dropped like that, you know? And so I truly believe that the Fed has done a great job with it.
Yeah.
Everybody was, waiting for last May, like rates are going to drop, the Fed's going to, and they can't do it too soon. Now,
Right.
today, obviously, the first drop that they've had in several years, right?
Yeah.
That 0.5% was a big move.
Yeah.
It was going to be 0.25%, and then as the days went on, and the reports came in from, and this is all based on true data, right? It's based on unemployment rates and inflation rates and all that stuff, and those things are unemployment's ticking up, inflation's ticking down,
Yep.
which is sending us towards a recessionary type deal, which is when interest rates go down. Rates go up when the economy's great. Rates go down when it's not. But when the rates go down, the home sales go up.
Right.
And the home sales go up, and it pulls us out of the recession. It's just this continuous cycle that we go through. And so I think we're coming out of it here. I think the winter's going to be a little different, just based on rates coming down, the interest coming in. We might see a stronger winter than we normally would see in a cyclical type year. But I think the opportunity for the buyer is right
now
at this exact moment, because there's a lot of inventory, right?
Yes.
And rates are coming down. I mean, rates are in the 5s at the moment on a lot of things, which is a healthy rate.
Right. Yep.
5 to 6% is a healthy interest rate. Anything below 5% is intervened by the government.
Right.
And so we don't necessarily want that case, because it means, bad things are going on, essentially. So.
Well, and I think that, just in the calls that I've received in the last 2 weeks, from clients, from buyers, from sellers equally.
Yeah.
They're watching. They're watching. They're waiting for I have one client, and she's like, call me the day after the Fed's supposed to be on the 17th, or the 18th rather, and I'd like to talk to you at 4 p.m. on the 18th. Okay.
It's coming up. You got a phone call coming
in
up.
2 hours, because she wants to discuss exactly that. Like, how is this going to affect housing? How is it going to affect the buyers? How is it going to affect the bottom line? Like, are we going to see more buyers coming on the market? I do think rates really are a big part of this picture. And so I think obviously the government sees that as well.
Yeah. It's the biggest part of the picture. It's the affordability piece.
Yeah. Yeah. And then combine that with election year, and I think that's why we've seen so much volatility. But I too have hope for the spring coming up next spring, get through the election.
Yeah.
I too think that this winter is geared up to be better, even better than June and July have been in the real estate space.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot more inventory start drying up, and buyers are buying. So
that's good. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited to continue to see a market of equilibrium. The market of late or early 22 was so frustrating for everybody, for buyers and sellers. Yep. Sellers thought it was great, unless they need to buy another home, and then they're on the other side of that fence. So I don't want to see that again, and I don't want to see the short sale and like like I like this status quo. Like there's a negotiation to be had.
Yep.
Sellers can't get too big for their britches. Buyers can get some closing costs paid, and
that goes back to educating your client again as agents. And I think, and that was a big shift from having 25 people lined up down the street to get into a new property a couple years ago,
right,
to, my house is sitting for 46 days. What's going on? What do we need to do? And that education process has been painful this year as agents
it hasn't been like that
to
in a
sellers.
long time.
Because it hasn't been like that. And having them realize that, guess what? It is more of a buyer's market right now than it is a seller's market.
Yeah.
That's a huge shift in your mentality as a selling. And if you haven't been staying up with what's going on in the world, which a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many people don't really stay up with what's going on. And all they hear is that their brother, sister's uncle sold their house in 2 days, 5 days ago. Those are conversations as agents that we have to work hard to communicate and educate our sellers of what the market really is doing today.
Yeah.
Not 5 years ago, not 2 months ago, what it's doing today. And then have that trust built so they believe you.
For sure.
That's most important.
Right. Yeah. It's building your brand and your everything that we talked about in the beginning, not just how great your website looks, but your brand in general, your social media, the things that you put out there, your expertise that you have is necessary now.
Yeah.
Things very different than 20 years ago. I mean, I can't imagine when I got in this business that we'd be doing podcasts and
No.
videos and things like that, but it's like you have to keep up with those trends as well, because you do have to show your expertise to more than just
Yep.
your sphere of influence and beyond that.
Yep,
So
I
how have
agree.
you adapted to that at all?
Goodness. It's always an everyday. I'm just staying up with technology. I mean, honestly, I'm starting to feel a little old, Brooks. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we both have
A-
birthdays this week, right?
yeah, we
Yeah.
do. But AI has thrown us for a loop a little bit. Like just staying up to it's wearisome, I would say. Now these young punk little 25-year-old real estate agents out there, props to you, props to you. But for us agents that have been agents for a long time, like staying relevant and staying with what's new in technology. I actually have that as a tagline that we study what's next in technology and implement it. It's getting a little harder to implement the technology because it's moving so fast.
It
I
is,
mean, and it is almost a full-time job of studying what's next in technology and being able to implement because it's
Yeah.
moving so quickly, even in social media and then TikTok. And then you're doing all the things, moving at light speed
Yeah.
and keeping up with it. But
And
we're
still having to
sure
do everything else,
and
right?
still do everything else.
Yeah.
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 So we have embraced it. We embrace the change. We're all, my team. Props to them too. They're amazing. Katie Higgins, she's my tech girl, and she's constantly learning and staying up with technology so that we can include the what's next into whatever it is that we're doing. And
Yeah.
I think it's important too, even for those people that have a team, you have to stay in it. You can't
You do. Yeah.
go, oh, I have my team. My team will figure it out. No, and that has been a learning curve this year. I think, especially with AI and everything, is I have to learn it right alongside them so that I can help them to utilize their strengths the way that they can. Now, ask me how to get into Chat GPT right now. I can get into that one, but there's like 10,000 of them now. So I have my few that I stick with.
Yeah. That's good. You got to have your go-to.
Yeah, but I think team leads need to understand that they have to get in there and do it also. Don't just throw it at your team and hope and pray that they're going to get you where you need to be. You got to be right alongside them because it is changing every single day.
Yeah, you got to be the leader in that
Yes.
in your business, right? You can't
Yes.
just let your business run you. You have to run your business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and you get weary. You could get weary because it's changing so fast. But I'm committed to it. Until I'm old and gray, I'm going to keep trying to learn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you spend a lot of money doing it, a lot of time doing it, and here's it. Like you said, it changes so fast that you feel like once you learn something, then there's something else, and you're already changing things and invested a lot of money into it, and there's a demo for this and that, and like there's so many.
Yeah.
Especially for real estate, like there's just so many different things.
I
that
mean,
you could
honestly,
get
if I
into.
had $1 billion right now, I could create the best platform out there to answer all the questions and problems that real estate agents have. But there's not one. There's like 5 million that you have to choose from, and knit them together to actually give your client what they need and give you what you need and your team what they need. So it's hard to navigate all the apps, all the technology, all the everything. I mean, going to all the conferences, staying relevant, doing the training, doing the coaching. It's a never ending black hole, the technology world, to stay relevant with it. But it's so important. You have to.
For sure.
You don't have a choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's, that'll never stop, as long as we're in this industry, and there's always going to be a need for a human component. Don't let the technology completely take over, because there still has to be that negotiation, the human involved, or else it's not going to get to the CarMax moment where this house is what it is, you buy it or not,
right?
I
think Zillow hopes so.
I think Lennar hopes so too.
I think they're hoping that it goes that direction. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
They're trying for it to go that way. Yeah.
Now I think that real estate in 10 years compared to where it is now is going to be a completely different beast. It's going to be an interesting 10 years.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
What do you think in 10 years? What's your prediction?
I don't know, but it's going to be completely different than what it is now.
Yeah.
I feel like this is just the beginning of the changes in both of our industries. Honestly,
it brought so much awareness to it.
Yes.
And now there's competitors, and there's even the guy that started the NAR lawsuit, right? He started a real estate company.
Because 200 million wasn't enough. He's going to go.
Yeah. Well, who knows if they'll ever get that money? Who has what real estate company has that to pay out? But
Yeah.
they're charging an a la carte fee,
Yep.
$49 to show a house, like
Yeah. I know.
time,
And there's
gas, like who's going to do that?
exactly. I think that's the question on every real estate agent's mind is, how are the 3%ers out there going to stay relevant with all of these changes? I think we're all going to have to shift. We're going to have to shift. We're going to have to know our value, know our worth, stay
Well, in
relevant.
demonstration of it,
Yes.
I don't know many buyer's agents that have a buyer's presentation.
Yeah, we do.
Not many, I said, not,
Yeah, we do.
or in most of them probably didn't prior to this year, and some have probably, hopefully,
Yeah.
changed the way that they meet with clients and
Yeah.
shows them their worth and their expectations. But like, you want to do it a la carte? We can do it a la carte,
Yeah.
and I'll show you it's going to cost you more than 3%.
Yeah.
The time, the text, that if you want to be like an attorney and charge per minute, per hour, per text
Right.
message, whatever, it's a lot
It's
of
going to be a
time.
lot.
You
Yeah.
work 24/7,
Yeah, it sounds good. It's like, oh, okay, 150 an hour. Oh, really? Like, how many hours are you going to work to get
Yeah.
that commission? Yeah, we've had long talks between my buyer's agents and myself on what are we going to change? How are we going to change our presentation? We probably will have to have that component because we're getting asked those questions. And if that's what buyers are wanting, then okay, we'll provide different avenues to them that still equals what we're worth. And I think that is possible to do
For sure.
as agents. I think we need to give buyers choices because they're already seeing them out
Yeah.
there. But I think structuring it and being able to communicate and having it in your presentation, a digital presentation that you bring with you to the buyer's meeting,
Yeah.
along with a packet that you're giving them of everything that shows you what they're getting, you've got to do that to stay relevant.
Sure.
So that's
you
what
would
we're
do
doing.
it for anything. I mean, you go look at cars, they give you a brochure, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You
Exactly.
can just go meet with someone and shake their hand and sign this agreement, like,
Exactly. You can't expect a buyer to sign an 8-page agreement and just go sign it. Like, you need to sit down with them, have them look at the presentation, look at what they're signing, and build that trust with them before you're, just shooting that puppy over and asking them to sign so you can go show them a property that's a lead.
yeah.
You've got to have those conversations. And it's a
Yeah.
learning process. Buyer's agents are not used to having to do that. My own buyer's agents are like, oh, crap, forgot to send that. Oh, no, got to go do that. Like,
Yeah.
we don't want to get fined, but it's a whole new world. But I think it's a good world because it opens that door to communication with the buyers and you're setting those expectations up front. And I don't think that was happening before.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean,
And nor were the sales conversations either. I
Right.
mean, how much sales scripting as a realtor have you done?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's cold call, stuff like that. But like with an actual client, like how do you present this? What do you say to them? How do you help them understand this into a point that they do want
Yeah.
to sign that and they do understand your worth? And
The problem is, and honestly, I think this has identified a problem within brokerages and within brokers. There's a lot of brokerages and brokers that haven't done their homework and done their due diligence
Right,
and
yeah.
have educated themselves to be able to answer their poor agents' questions that are called. That's why we're seeing Real Estate Mastermind and all these questions coming out of everybody. And then we're all like, go ask your broker. And one lady was like, I am a broker. And she's asking questions. It's like... So it is hard out there, and depending on, so it does matter what brokerage you're a part of. It does matter who your broker is. And if they're not staying up to date with what's going on, how in the world are you expecting to be able to educate your clients and stay educated with the paperwork that you need to be doing?
Well,
So
yeah.
it's definitely opened the door to, and opened the eyes of everybody of, do you know what you're doing or don't you? And are you following the rules or aren't you? And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the brokerage model, I think, is something that's going to change too.
Yeah.
It's gotten to a point where it's just a facilitator of your license and not really a place of education, training, compliance, and things like that, because it's gotten so marginalized and they make so little per transaction now that they don't provide the support. They don't have the capability to
Yeah.
provide the support for you. So I think that's part of the model that's going to change as well.
It's going to be interesting.
You got to have more services, especially if you're going to hire brand new agents and people that don't know. But
That don't know.
even ones that do know still need that support and training, and so that's going to have to be something that shifts too. So
I'm thankful to be a part of Remax. It's a worldwide known brand, and I'm there for a reason because they do have the resources. They have done the training. My broker plugged in. he doesn't have all the answers, but if he doesn't have the answer, he's going to be honest that he doesn't have the answer. He's going to go get the answer.
Yeah. He has
So
a network to go get it
he has
from.
the
He's not a
network to
broker
get
on
it.
his own to go like
Exactly.
figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's part of my sales pitch is I'm with a brokerage that is tried and true, been around for 50 plus years. And I think that's going to be valuable too. Is all these
For
little
sure.
mom and pop brokerages out there. They're the ones that need to really be brushing up on their skills and their processes and procedures for their agents. And I think there's going to be some changes there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, you got anything else you want to talk about today?
I guess, what do you think is going to happen in the real estate industry in the next 3 years?
The next 3 years
Yeah.
is going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of changes. Like you said, I think, you said 10 years is going to look different. I think it's going to look drastically different in 3.
Okay.
I think we're going to go through another pretty solid run for the next couple years. And during that time, a lot of these mortgage and real estate companies are they're going to make some pretty good money over that time. And I think they're going to use that to reinvest and change the way that the industry looks. I think there's going to be more hybrid models out there in some way where mortgage and real estate and title and insurance and are partnered up in some way, kind of like you see like D.R. Horton and DHI
Right.
and all those companies paired together. I'm not certain that that's the best way to go about it. I think it's going to compress the margins across the board, and it's going to hurt the real experts that are part of the business. And so what that's going to do is going to weed out the lower producers, and it's
Yeah.
going to make the top producers more prevalent. They'll have more team aspect, more salaried assistants, either showing agents or loan officers with teams having, which has already been a thing, but more prevalent. I think it's going to really gravitate to the bigger producers across the board, whether it's in whatever industry it's in, because the margins are going to shrink and you're going to have to grow that team in order to be able to be a big player.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
I like
So
it. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. What about the lending side? How do you see that's going to shift in the next 3 years?
it's more digital, it's more AI. We have AI in our system already. AI is, it's such a buzzword really because it's learned processes, like Chat GPT is just something that aggregates data, and every time you use it, it gets better and better and better. So it's, I guess it's AI if you want to call it that, but it's just learned processes. It's like a human just learning over and over and over again. It has an infinite capacity. So I believe that AI and processes like that will be more prevalent in our business. Like I said, it's already in it. We use it for underwriting right now, and it conditions the loans, and then a human comes along behind it and double checks it. And over the course of the next couple of years, you'll start to trust it enough to where you don't have to double check it. And so hopefully that'll bring the margins down, or the cost of doing a loan down, so that the margins can come down and it can be a little more competitive. The cost of doing a mortgage has gone up every year for the last 20 years, and probably every year forever.
Yeah.
And they believe that technology was going to drive the price down, but every time we turn around, we're paying for a new technology to do this and to do that. And so I believe that at some point these technologies will come together so you don't have to pay for so many of them, and the cost will go down.
Right.
And we'll be able to utilize that to bring lower margins to the market. It'll speed the transaction up. I think blockchain will become part of the mortgage industry on a mainstream level. It already is with a lot of HELOCs. And with blockchain, all that is verifying something, right? It's tokenizing a real estate asset, and you'll see it in the bigger cities first, because you have the electronic records that some of the rural counties don't have. And you'll be able to validate tax certificates, deeds, mortgages, things like that. And so you'll be able to transact faster if you wanted to. And so that's
exciting, actually.
Yeah, I think it plays into the same narrative I said about the bigger teams, and so it's the same thing. And it'll partner with the bigger players. I mean, ICE Technology is a big private equity firm that owns Encompass, which is our loan software, and now they own Black Knight, which is has all the real estate data, CoreLogic, and they own MERS, which is Mortgage Electronic Registration System. Like they touch every single mortgage that's done in America in one way, shape, or form. So like it's going to these bigger players, and the fact that someone like that has put a lot of investment and effort into this industry is just means that others will too.
Right.
And so I think there's going to be a lot of interest in our space over the coming years, and from technology players and things like that will streamline the process and bring the cost of business doing that to go down a lot. So
interesting. I think it'll go hand in hand with the changes that are happening in the real estate market as well. That's what I said. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, big players like Compass that came in. Compass is technology first, and Robert Refkin is actually going to be on a webinar next week that Go Coaching is hosting. You should watch that. He's the CEO of Compass, and they call him the most hated man in real estate because he's a disruptor. Like he's disrupted the industry, and I think that's it's a big thing right now is disruption, and companies are paying attention to what's happening and the changes. So.
And I think that it is going to affect real estate as a whole, as us agents that have been here for 20 years and all the newbie agents. And I mean, shoot, how many agents have left the business in the last year? Last stat,
2 million, I think.
Yeah,
it is,
last stat I saw was 2 million. So
yeah,
I mean, that's already shifted and changed our industry.
Yeah, we were over 400,000 LOs at the peak. I think 450. And it depends on what stat you see. I think it's around 130 to 150,000 that are left.
Yeah.
And that's in 2 years. Like we've lost
2 years. Exactly.
70% of the loan originators. You've lost 50, 60% of the real estate agents.
Yep. So if you aren't willing to shift with the change that's coming.
Yeah. And you're not willing to put in the work, like you said, like you got to take no, so many times. And honestly, not many people are willing to do that.
No. And
like,
you're not willing to change
rejection,
either. They don't like change.
No.
Or rejection.
Exactly.
And you have to be willing to change. You have to stay relevant with what's happening in the industry.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to do what it takes to be able to do that. And it's weary. You get weary. It's a lot to continue to shift your business to what's going on and to change and to morph to what's happening and to educate and to change your processes and procedures based on what's happening. But if you want to stay relevant, you want to stay in this business, you have to.
You do. I think there's something that everybody needs to not forget, though, is that it's still a relationship business.
It is.
And that, and you work your business that way. No matter how you change your process and your prospecting and your systems and stuff, it always goes back to who you know and how well you build that relationship and how well you stay in touch and build that going forward, because like computers can't replace everything, and they definitely can't replace a relationship,
Well, I sure hope not, because I got the relationship part down.
Well, keep doing what you're doing. It seems to be working.
Thank you, and thank you for your partnership for 15 years.
Absolutely. 15 more, right?
Yeah, well, I hope at least 30. Come on. We'll be on our crutches and canes.
Hopefully I'm on my boat or my island at that point, but we got to do a lot more loans before that.
Save me an acre and I'll come out there and be on your boat and your island.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining me today. It was a pleasure, and
so much.
We'll do it again soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Hannah.